Adam Muncy is a co-owner and CEO of Samson's Haircare, a men's grooming brand and manufacturer with 300 retailers in over 15 countries. Today, we're going to hear who he is, what the brand is all about, and where they're going from here. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I am your host, Robert Hughes, and today I'm with Adam Muncy. How are you doing today, Adam?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk about the brand on the podcast and get to know you better.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We've kind of been going back and forth for a few months now, so I'm happy to finally get this on the books. I'm looking forward to this.
I started as a fan. I've listened to so many podcasts while I've been working out in the morning. So,
Oh yeah, awesome, nice, awesome. So I wanted to first start off by saying that I think it's really cool and interesting that you're not only you have the hair care brand, but you're the manufacturer as well. And I look forward to kind of hearing your story and how you got there. And I'm imagining that a lot of what you're going to talk about is going to speak to a lot of our audience who are in a position of making like big moves, making big decisions about their career, taking steps to get to where they want to go. Some people might be interested in creating a product line. Someone might have an idea for a tool. Someone might just want to open up a salon or open up a suite, whatever it is. And I'm also excited to hear a perspective and get some more representation from the barbering community. So why don't we start off with tell us a little bit about, who you are, how you, and how'd you get into this industry and kind of get started with that?
yeah, 100%. I got into the industry, I think, like a lot of people do. My family had no background in cutting hair. I mean, I grew up military, so my mom used to shave our head, no guard, on the back porch all the time. But I got in as a customer. My partner, Jake, was cutting my hair when I moved up here. I was going to the chains and not getting the haircut that I wanted. The church I was going to at the time, Jake was like the unofficial church barber, and everybody was like, "Hey, you got to go see this guy." And so I did, and he was good. And he'd started messing around with a little rice cooker in his basement, making pomade. And I had never really used pomade. I'd used hair products, Axe from Rite Aid, Walgreens, whatever. And he turned me onto it, 18 bucks a can, and it was working. It smelled good. It held my hair in place, and he was happy to keep making it. And so I was not loving my banking career, and I was not having a lot of success in my banking career. I had a really good boss, and that kept me in banking a lot longer than I probably should have been there. And after 5 years of it, he was like, "Come on, man, why don't you just come do this with me?" And that was all the motivation I needed to come to the hair industry. If I'd known more about the hair industry, I would have been a lot more cautious. I would have taken a lot longer. When I left the banking industry to come join the hair industry, we had one product and 1 cent. There was no other holds, no nothing. All we had was one styling product. That was it. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Jumped in full time.
Okay, so you said you were in banking. So what do you mean banking? Like working on Wall Street or
No. I work for a boutique bank. So there's like normal banks that I would assume all of us go to, right? When we go get a car loan, credit card, whatever. And then there's another level of banking for like what I would say is like mass affluent, like the small business owners. So like the average everyday millionaire, like your rich aunt and uncle. So like they have a net worth anywhere between like $1 million and $50 million. And it was sort of that type of bank. So they have like unique needs that not the everyday person has, but they're not rich enough that they have their own bank. And so that's the type of bank that I was working at the time, which wasn't a bad gig. And 100%, if you're a person who has no idea what you want to do with your life, go work at a bank, man. You have holidays off, you have decent pay, great health coverage. But if like you have a soul, don't do it. But if you don't, the bank is great.
Okay, and then tell me why you made a comment that I wanna understand. You said if you wouldn't and correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said if you would have known about the industry more, then you might have maybe waited or gone slower or something like that.
100%. So when I came into the industry, we had one product. It was a heavy beeswax product. And I don't know how into chemistry you are, but men in general, like barbers specifically, like water soluble products. Beeswax in general is not going to be very water soluble. So this worked almost like a traditional oil based pomade, which I loved because I could wear it for multiple days in a row, didn't wash out. That was great. For me, that was a feature. For 99% of people, that was a bug because it wasn't water soluble. I had to wash my hands after every time I applied it to a client. So I
Interesting.
quit my job, and every barber shop I went to get them to carry this product said, I have to wash my hands to get it off my hands.
Ah,
That was a huge roadblock in our first year in business.
gotcha. Okay.
So we had
So,
one product, nothing else.
so it was more kind of doing some market research. You're like, oh, okay, we got a little more work to do, basically. And is that what you were kind of?
Yeah, I wish we'd had other products. I didn't realize, and this is wild to say now, this many years in, but I didn't realize one product wasn't going to work for every single person in the world. Now we've got 11 SKUs. Last I counted, we've got curly haired products, we've got light holding products, matte, shiny, everything like that. But at the time, I was like, I don't know why everyone doesn't think our one product is the greatest thing in the world.
And how long ago did you get started in this endeavor?
This is going to sound crazy. I quit my job in July of 2019,
Okay.
6 months before COVID shut down everything.
So when COVID shut down, were you like, yes, I got time to work, or you were like, oh snap, like I don't was it more like opportunity or concern?
I mean, I definitely freaked out because all of our customers were shut down, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we're still 80% wholesale. So that's 80% of our market right away is gone. And a lot of the relief and stuff was based on having years worth of history. And I didn't want to commit fraud to get a lot of the government money. So that was a hurdle to get over. I will say the nice thing is because we're in such a niche part of the industry. Um, to go back a little bit, what I say, we're almost like craft beer 30 years ago, where people don't even realize you can make it at home. And I say that ambitiously, right? Because I hope that what I'm doing right now, manufacturing it on our own, is as big as craft beer is now. Uh,
Oh, interesting.
right? Um, but there's also guys who are highly committed, right? Like all the time, I have dudes in Vietnam messaging me on Facebook saying, wow, I love that one you did for Halloween. That's such a great product. How can I get some more? That sort of thing. Um, the cool thing about COVID that people didn't necessarily realize at the beginning is that when it shut down here in March, they were already opening in different parts of the world. And so thankfully from a cash flow perspective, we were able to get little pockets of money coming from Singapore for a little bit, Australia, Germany, which was a godsend that COVID was almost bouncing around where it was. Because when new stuff would open, we would get a check from here and a check from here and a check from here to keep us going for that really 3 months when it was really, really bad in Michigan.
Wow. Nice. So okay, so you get you're getting your hair done from your barber, and he says, come on, why don't you come and do this thing with me? And you're like, okay, let's do it. And tell us a little bit about one, what that like building that, tell us a little bit about like that relationship and creating that partnership. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, because I imagine building creating a partnership with somebody, there's a lot, that of thought that would go into it, I would assume.
Yeah. Creating a partnership in anything is really difficult. And to this day, whatever new projects we come up with is so difficult to kind of go through that whole negotiation thing. I will say that I'm used now to my stomach just being all the way up here, just all the time. right? Buying a house is not stressful at all anymore because it's just like there's 1,000 houses in this town. If they don't like my offer on this one, it's whatever. We'll just move on to the next one. Um, and now with Jake, we're close enough friends that it's kind of a ride or die thing. So we'll just throw out numbers, say, hey, here's the number, here's why. What are you thinking on it? I think I should take the lead on this. Here's like the 5 reasons why I should take the lead on this. It's not personal. Here are the why. And that was really what the situation was. Um, the big thing, he had more industry and more hair experience. The fundraising, I really took the lead on because I had the banking background, the business planning, the financial projections, everything like that. I had a lot more contacts for all of those things. And so it really made sense for me to take that lead. But as far as negotiating it out and dealing with it and how to set up the partnership, we just went with a 2-member LLC, taxed it as a partnership, did a Schedule C every year, guaranteed payments, just make it as easy as we possibly can. If none of that stuff makes sense, your CPA will make it make sense. Don't go to the cheapest CPA. There's a reason they're the cheapest. And that's something in the industry we always want to do is go to the cheapest. But would you go to the cheapest hairdresser? Right? The reason they're the cheapest. So pay for your CPA. That's like the best advice I can give you. A lawyer is worth paying for. I know they're expensive, 100%, but I would rather pay for a good lawyer once than have to pay for a good lawyer later because you paid for a bad lawyer at the beginning.
Totally. That's good. I love that. Awesome. Okay, so you build this this partnership. You utilize legal advice and accounting advice, tax advice, and so now you got this partnership. And tell us a little bit about like going, because it wasn't that long ago that you were just getting started, and now you're already at 300 retailers and 15 countries. You said.
Sir.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that journey to get to where you are from where you were.
Bro, it has been an absolute grind every single step of the way. And not to say there hasn't been like big break moments, but you're always looking for that like movie moment of like, this is the moment when it all came together and we could finally breathe and relax or whatever. And we haven't necessarily had that. I feel like we've kind of had to fight tooth and nail for every single new account. And a lot of it's been locally, it's been, me knocking on doors, cold calling, showing up, leaving samples. A big thing for me is I'll go leave a sample and tell our story and then follow up, which sounds like the lamest sales pitch, right? But from my perspective, is as far as retailing products go, I want them to be able to provide value to their customers first and foremost. I want them to be able to increase their own income. That's a really big thing. And if they're only buying my sales pitch, they're not going to buy again. So it's really not worth it for me anyway. So sales is all education. It's not, schmoozing, any of that stuff. That always felt like dirty and gross to me. So it's really education, but it's been such a grind every single time of knocking on doors. And then some stuff has worked out, but we've never been able to be a brand that's just had a huge ton of hype behind us where people have just been like, look, their packaging is shiny. I need to try it. Like, this is the next cool big thing. And I don't resent that because there's just definitely been something blue collar and sort of Midwest about what we do and almost like heritage brand to us, even though we're only 3 going on 4 years old, that we've just grinded it out every single time. And I do take a lot of pride in that we've just been kind of fought for everything. We've hand poured everything, like literally right here. Like if you were to order a beard oil from us right now, it's me pouring it out of this contraption right here, which kind of adds to our charm, I think, is that there's no cheating to it. And there's not been any sort of like And then we signed a huge free agent and they took us to the World Series. The whole time has been just one foot in front of the other, steady growth over and over and over. And there's not been any astronomical growth. The annual growth has been in the 20% most times. I think over last year we grew 20 some percent. I don't have the number off the top of my head because I'm a bad CEO, but that's really what it's been. It's been steady incremental growth of, treating people right, maintaining the relationships, checking in with them. But it's been a lot of cold calling. It's been a lot of following up and in-person deliveries. But that's what it is. I don't really consider myself a sales manager or a sales leader. More so see myself as a relationship manager, right? Like if I take care of them, let them know that their voice matters. That's typically how I get people to want to have a relationship with Samson's and want to maintain that relationship with us.
And so when you're building these relationships and you're talking, I hear you talking about your brand, like it's you're talking about the charm and you're grinding it out and Midwestern and I think that's some really interesting and important points. You have this brand and but you're also doing kind of more of an analog impact on those relationships are being built a little bit more analog than kind of digital. And I feel like everybody jumps to the digital space nowadays to establish themselves, and you're doing more of a grassroots kind of vibe. And I think that there's power, I think, in that. Look at that's how Starbucks started. They didn't try to blow up and become like super famous. They just started to open up stores and they spread out, grassroots. I think that's really interesting. So what type of role does just because I know that there's a lot of people listening that are thinking about the ways that they can kind of blow their up, by being going viral, and it's kind of like sounds a little like get rich quick vibes. Not that the person is trying to get rich quick, but can you speak to like your experience and like what role the digital world plays in your brand and your reach and your sales? Yeah.
For sure. I will say this, the biggest lessons I've learned. So we've gone viral a handful of times. Big things I'll tell you. Number one, going viral without a pixel doesn't really matter, right? So you're not going to be able to retarget. If you don't know what a pixel is, basically a pixel is like a piece of code that will allow you to track whatever IP addresses hit on your page, right? So like if you have a piece of content that everybody sees, if they click on that content, the pixel will be able to track that their IP address hit on that content. You'll be able to retarget it later, right? But like if you're like one face in a sea of faces that a million people see, it doesn't matter if they don't have anything to attach to that face that they've seen, right? If you think of just like a nondescript bottle they've seen on the shelf, it doesn't matter if 10 billion people see it if they can't remember it, right? So that's what the pixel is going to allow you to do. That's a hard lesson I learned, right? Like our shop sign that says Samson's, it went viral. When we got it, we're in a historic part of town, and the guy who painted our sign went viral, and he made this like perfectly smooth S, and he freehanded it, and it was there was a stroke song on it, and this Instagram account called Pubity or Pubity. I don't actually know how it's pronounced. I'd never followed it before it happened. And then somebody texted me and they're like, hey, this other shop has the same name as your shop. This guy's painting a sign for them. And it's like, no, that's my shop. But thank you for letting me know this. I was waiting in line to go vote at the time. And if you know how viral success works, is you have like minutes, hours to catch on to that and capitalize off of it. And so we took the time to do it and try to get our best to capture it. But if you don't have the pixel on it, it really doesn't matter from a retargeting standpoint. So you got the exposure and people saw the brand and they knew it, but it's not like you're going to get rich off of 32 million likes, right? Like
Yes.
we've got this warehouse, but never do I go to Dan, my landlord, and say like, hey, this month you want likes instead of cash? Because like I've got a lot of likes, extra likes you can have. Um, that's really not how it works. The one thing I will say that's actually valuable from a digital marketing perspective, and I don't think people get this, and it's definitely for rising stylists, something they really gotta learn because I had to learn it. And it's not like something unique that I came up with. There was another guy who created a company in town taught me email marketing and SMS marketing. Oh my goodness. If you want people to book with you, email marketing and text message marketing are the biggest things. I mean, yeah, it depends on what you want to do. Like if you want to be an educator, that's a different conversation to have.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you want to drive a Benz and, have a 4-3 in the suburbs and you want to have season tickets to the local pro team, like email marketing and text message marketing is going to keep the cheeks in your seats all day, every day. And that's one thing that I don't think stylists get out of school because when you're 19 years old, I don't think you're really checking your email all that often.
Yeah, I will tell you, from my experience, just like unless you're in the world of education and an influencer, uh, coach, uh, you probably don't check your email. That's my experiences, like hairdressers and definitely rising stylists, like stylists of all levels, don't seem to check their email. Um, but definitely the younger people, I definitely think that finding where you can communicate with them, I like that. I will say, what I really like more than that is you kind of talking about conversion. And just because you have a success on social media doesn't convert into butts in seats and heads in to work on. So I'm glad you spoke to that, and I like that pixel recommendation. So anybody watching this, you go ahead and you got something to do some research on and learn about. So that's pretty good. And the email and text message marketing, I think that is also super powerful. So I got another question. Based on, okay, so you're building this brand and you're doing real like guerrilla marketing, just kind of door to door, call to call on the sales level. And so where are you at now, and what can we expect to see from you as we look into the future?
We've got a lot of really cool stuff in the works. We love to collaborate. That's a really big thing that I think we can offer and not all the big brands can really do. Like we're not super interested in people calling us up like, hey, help me launch my brand. There are people that'll do that, right? Like if you want to slap your sticker on something, like there's people designed to do that. I'm not really excited about that. I'm more excited about seeing you, ruin a couple pots and pans in your kitchen and then ask me what you're doing wrong. That's way more exciting to me. So do all of those things before you talk to me about anything to do with starting a brand. Um, from us though, what's happening next? This is the year that we're really planning to hit up some of the bigger trade shows. It's just we've reached that point where it's really the next level that we got to do. We're excited about that. I've never been to Vegas before, so I don't know that it'll quite be my scene, but hopefully there'll be like a cool tiki bar out there or something like that. That'll be fun to try out. Other stuff, we are hoping to make the jump to the distributor level. I think we've made enough noise independently to really solidify ourselves as a brand. It's a pretty crowded market, and I think men's brands in general kind of get disrespected as, yeah, we are a women's line and we have color. Oh, and we also have this men's wet line, um, which I think is just so disrespectful because it's a lot of beard hair. Number one is going to be a different texture, and the skin on your face is going to be different than the skin on the top of your head. The pH levels are going to be different, and the sebum oil is going to be produced at a different rate. All these things are just so different. It's just so disrespectful. And there's this weird cultural change that happened in the 60s and 70s that men are so content to allow that to happen. And I think over the last 10 years, people have kind of fought back on that. And yeah, I think the term metrosexual is outdated and not necessary. But I do like that it has really opened up a door that like men are allowed to take care of themselves and care and not just, wear their jorts and their Nike Monarchs and say, I just want a two all around haircut. I'm glad that we've moved past that as a society. So for us as a brand, I think we're ready to take the next step into distributors, trade shows, and then just keep grinding. We've got a lot of stuff in the works. Big thing that came out this last year was Foster the Curl. Jake and I are both foster dads. That's like near and dear to our hearts. That comes before any product we ever put out. And Foster the Curl, 3% of our revenues, not profits, because you can always do whatever kind of shady math you want to do to make your profits as small as you want. The 3% of our revenues from that product go to Foster the Family. It's an organization that provides self-care goods in the first 24 hours to kids when they enter a new home. Specifically, Jake and I partnered with them so that kids with textured hair could have self-care goods. That was a big issue people were running into. They were going to different families of different ethnicities that weren't able to care for them, didn't have the know-how, anything like that. So Jake and I have partnered with former foster youth to come up with education programs to kind of help bridge that gap, but then also fund to buy those goods. Something that I had to learn a lot when I became a foster dad. I remember the first time I looked at my daughter's braids and it was, how do I do these braids? How do I take these braids out? How do I wash it? This whole thing. And so for us to come up with that product was a real labor of love. And that's something big. It was just in Barber Evo last month, and that's been huge for us.
That's awesome. I love that. And I know exactly what you're talking about. My wife was adopted and she's from Brazil, and she's got like super, super curly hair, and her mother, the way that she's actually had to learn how to do her hair kind of all over again as an adult because she didn't really understand her hair really, because she didn't grow up with, her mother wasn't the same ethnicity, didn't have the same texture hair as her. So I that's awesome. I think that's super cool that you're doing
They
that.
weren't having those conversations then, right? Like,
no, it was kind of like make your hair look like other people's hair as much as we can. Like she would like try to like gel down the little tiny curls that would stick out, stuff like that. So yeah, no, I think that's awesome. That's super cool.
We're really, really proud of that. I wish I had some on me. That one's like constantly being produced and sold out. Oh wait, I got one. Give me a second.
All right.
Sorry, I'm wrapped up in a sleeping bag because we're in the warehouse and I hate paying for heat. So there it is, in the same airless pump that a large publicly traded brand that we will not name also uses. So nice. Pump with vitamin E, everything else. You don't have to gel your curls. They don't get crunchy. They don't flake later. I'm super proud of that product. And it was all Jake and I just being embarrassed that we spent all this time creating hair products that our kids couldn't use.
I love that. That's super awesome. I think I love this story, and I think this is a great place to kind of wrap it up. And I'd like to hear a little bit more, maybe a little variance in topics to hear your take on some things. But for now, I think this is a great place to wrap it up. Do you have any last things that you'd like to say, or pieces of advice for anybody that's embarking on a new venture?
I would say the biggest things are focus on the self-discipline to do the really unsexy things, and that's what's going to make you really stand out, right? Showing up on time, showing up professional, having it together, having your station clean, your kit together, doing your email marketing, remembering your customer's name, hanging up their coat. All of those things are really what's going to make a huge difference. Whether all the other kids in cos school think you're the coolest kid there does not matter. Whether you do the best vivids in cos school does not matter. That's not what's going to make you the most employable when you get out of there. It's all those other things that are going to make a huge difference. And when you do all of those things really, really well, that's how you're going to become a platform artist. That's how you're going to become an educator. I know this because I work with them. They've gotten hired. I've recruited them. These are the things that matter.
Nice. That's awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. And look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you so much. It was a blast. It was a dream of mine.
Awesome. All right. I'll talk to you soon.